Talk about like that nexus, how it's all coming together, like your personal brand, your company brand, and how you're representing on like a B2B channel that's super important, like LinkedIn. Do you mind just like maybe some historical perspective?
Sure. Well, I think on, let's say, the broad stroke level, I think across the board, we're going through three really big shifts in content across the board. And I see LinkedIn as the microcosm for that reflects just the bigger picture. 50% of B2B buyers will vet through LinkedIn. People will spy on you through LinkedIn just to make sure that you're the right person. For example, we all kind of know this. And I think on a lot of podcasts with brand people, they might say, oh, just be vulnerable, be authentic, use storytelling. And I think the advice just stops there and it doesn't really
Yeah.
tell us, well, how do I actually do that in 2026?
Do you mind giving some quick tips of people how they could like immediately get better in this area?
So I think the two things that we have to watch out for.
All right, cool. We are live with Nick Anderson Vines. I thank you for doing this. I love your stuff on social media, particularly LinkedIn. Thanks for being on the podcast.
Thank you very much for having me, Nick.
So, do you mind giving a quick introduction? I know you're the founder of Anderson Vines Copy. Is that the
Mhm.
right name for the? But tell us a little bit of
Yep.
what you've been doing and how you're helping CEOs, founders improve their brand, particularly on social media.
Coolio. So I ghostwrite B2B organic thought leadership content primarily for founders of marketing agencies and fractional CMOs. I personally come from a marketing and journalism background as a copywriter. So when I moved into ghostwriting, I naturally wanted to focus on where my expertise was. The main problem that I see in my particular market is that these people are absolutely brilliant at marketing for their own clients, but their own content doesn't reflect that. I think I like to operate at two levels. One is helping them demonstrate their true technical expertise, where they don't have the time to really convey that. And on a second level, be that creative marketer, or to act like their best creative marketer that they have in house, so that people can look at their content and say, "Wow, Jerry really knows how to stand out." And my work, I think, is about closing that loop.
Mm. So, I think what's really interesting, why I was so excited to talk with you, is that as Sure Oak is an SEO company, now I guess we're a GEO company. This whole world is moving away from clicks, what you would call top of the funnel, to brand. And I think there's research out now by Ahrefs and SEMrush both about how often people always hear about Reddit being cited, but on B2B particularly, LinkedIn's so important. Maybe you could talk about like that nexus, how it's all coming together, like your personal brand, your company brand, and how you're representing on like a B2B channel that's super important, like LinkedIn. Do you mind just like maybe some historical perspective?
Sure. Well, I think on, let's say, the broad stroke level, I think across the board, we're going through three really big shifts in content across the board. And I see LinkedIn as the microcosm for that reflects just the bigger picture in general. So I think there's a content supply explosion,
Yes.
a quality floor increase, and a friction decrease, and how easy it is just to consume the content. So with the content explosion, I think at a broader view, it's never been easier to make content. Prompting is much faster than researching and writing. So everyone is creating. So you have very limited attention. Our audiences have very limited attention to kind of look at the content. And I think, again, the same with social and email. Platforms like LLMs and AI overviews are all incentivized to filter for the slop that we are experiencing across the board. So I think it's really looking for, like LinkedIn algorithms, email algorithms, they're all looking for looking to identify those hard to fake signals of trust and
Mhm.
relevancy. And there's that kind of reinforcement learning from how users are engaging with the content, and that will obviously affect platform filtering, much like with SEO. It's filtering for that particularly content that provides that net new information gain where we're learning something new
Mhm.
that has that proprietary data. So I think with LinkedIn and with Google, we are aligning those incentives between making that valuable content with the platform incentives to deliver great experiences for their users. And I think that's where LinkedIn is aligning with SEO in
Mm.
general.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
what's really funny, the people talk about AI slop and how bad, the platform on LinkedIn's well over 1 billion people, right? And it's like, yeah, it's gotten bad. But like, it's always been bad. People did not know how to be social on social media. It was like, hey, I'm showing at the conference, stop by. Like, that means nothing to nobody, right? It's like a lot of that had happened. But to your other point is people are trying, they're still like, I still don't think they're getting the brand part of it. And this is what we're doing with SEO. They're always going, well, yeah, let me just throw an advertisement up. Come to my website. What branding is what you do and your trust. And and I would love to know how you do this with CEOs. It's like, okay, great. You're this person who
Mhm.
does this thing. Why are you so good at it? Why should I trust you? What's the authenticity here?
Exactly right. And I think that just for the purposes of this episode, I think most of your audience probably, I don't have to convince anyone why they should be posting on LinkedIn.
Hmm.
For example, I think I just think that we right now as a marketplace, or many of us, founders and CEOs, they they have the right idea, but they're misallocating their time. They're not prioritizing towards the right things that align with how the digital landscape is changing, how audience behavior on these platforms is changing across the board. So, I don't, for example, 50% of B2B buyers will vet through LinkedIn. People will spy on you through LinkedIn just to make sure that you're the right person. For example, we all kind of know this. And I think on a lot of podcasts with brand people, they might say, oh, just be vulnerable, be authentic, use storytelling. And I think the advice just stops there. And it doesn't really
Yeah.
tell us, well, how do I actually do that in 2026? I could follow the whole SEO playbook of, be seen, be trusted, be useful. I could use that timeless principle, but but how I do that in 2026 isn't the same as how I did it in 2024 or 2025. Because again, audience attitudes are changing dramatically. And I think that in 2026, ChatGPT and Claude has like seriously lowered the barrier to entry, like
Yes.
I mentioned, for content. With a few clicks and a few prompts, I could make a piece of thought leadership content that's at least usable. And I think more and more people are understanding LinkedIn's values, so they're all flocking to it. So therefore, it's saturated, and wandering eyeballs aren't really translating into the business outcomes that we truly want. And all the while, we're trying to tell stories, we're trying to be authentic, we're trying to show our vulnerability, but that's not the same as it used to be. Okay,
Mm,
it used to be like, I was a drunk alcoholic in Bali and now I'm a millionaire. And it's like, well, no, that's not. We're kind of sick of that now. In a way, there's a fatigue on the conceptual level now with that kind of content. So I think it's like, in a way, you could just, and also even with valuable content, like how to achieve this.
mm,
2 years ago, you could just get away with giving advice that's valuable, but in a sense, we need to know you're human. I need to know you're human, and I think you can't just be valuable anymore. You have to weave anecdotal elements into even your educational content, even into your bottom of funnel content. You have to pair things with raw opinions, perspectives, and narratives, beginning, middles, and ends. And for us, okay, this person must be human. And it's very interesting that now, but in a way, you think, oh, copywriting is on the way out. No, we really need really creative copywriting now, my friend. I think that's where we're at. But I'll let you say your thing. I've got plenty
no,
more to
no,
talk
I
about.
you say these things and it prompts so many questions in my head because I think you hit a really key point is um if you have like an insights group or if you're sitting on some pile of data, like say something new. I mean, I think people fall into the social media trap of saying derivative things that AI already knows. And I think people also, I think you're alluding to it, but we need to say it explicitly. Just because the conversation is happening on LinkedIn, it's also happening on the LLM. So who is Nick Anderson Bynes? Well, apparently he's a drunk that moved to Bali and became a millionaire. Well, that's not what I want my brand to say on an off platform message. But so what you're saying on these platforms is educating another chat experience that's really powerful.
Yeah, exactly. And where we are now, storytelling is going to be needed in much more different ways. Before it, we saw it in a vacuum about, show your personal side, tell us something about your family. But now it's very much not only in LinkedIn, but also in SEO content, I think as well. We all have optimization fatigue. When content looks too perfect, readers are just tuning out. You could follow all the rules of copywriting and have the really flashy hook, headline, but anything that feels too clean and tidy, it's like,
Yeah.
looks like AI to me.
Yeah. It
So I
smells.
think that, even with these templates, it's very funny. There was the same hook was going around. I just had lunch with the founder of $1 billion SaaS company. Here are the 7 lessons that I learned. It's like suddenly we kept seeing that just popping up again and again and
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
again, because everyone was over optimizing that same old slop, even though it could have come from a genuine thought. We're much more suspicious, and we have this fatigue. And I think that anything that feels too formulaic or logical, it could follow all the rules of copywriting. It could, use a listicle. It could be credibility jacking. It could be a hot take. It could, but if it feels, and it could be specific to your business, but if it feels too logical, then we think it's AI driven. So I think the two things that we have to watch out for, and again, going back to my first point, LinkedIn is that microcosm for the bigger picture attitudes to content and branding across the board in all of our content, SEO content, blog content, etc. The two things we have to watch out for now is your writing style and not overusing these age-old templates that become this regurgitation, sorry to swear, but bastardization of
Mhm.
that, and AI in some sense can call it out too, and it's kind of sick of it, and it'll notice it. And I make this joke that even AI is sick of AI in some sense. Even AI doesn't want the AI content. I mean, so in a way, there are some really good examples of people who are doing this really well and who are actually standing out. And I think Adam Robinson from retention.com is a really good example of
Mhm.
someone who in a sense makes his hooks feel like they've literally just come out of his brain like 30 seconds ago.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But he's slyly like ninjaing the copywriting formulas I just mentioned into the hook, while dressing it up in this very like spontaneous, I've just come out the shower and now I just want to give you, I mean, I have used this technique of, listen, I've got 20 minutes before my next plane leaves. So I thought I'd drop these 7 hot takes about LinkedIn to you. And in a sense, it's like, okay, we've got a human. We've got a human.
He's on a
So
plane and he's
he's
taking
on a plane.
personal time out of his day.
Yeah. And it's like using things like, hey, dot, I just want to let you know that. And it's that, in a way, is what people are really buying into now. You still got to follow the same old copywriting techniques. I think one that he did was, it's 2026. If you're a SaaS founder, you're probably screwed. Anything that you do gets copied, CAC up, LTV's down. Here are the 7 things. So he's kind of making it feel natural and conversational, right?
Yeah,
And
Gary V
so
is
yeah,
good
I'll
at
let you
that
say
too.
something about that.
Love him or hate him, but Gary Vanderchuk is really good at that as well. I mean, but he's relentless. I mean, he's posting multiple times a day. So I think he's like quantity over quality. He's one of these things is going to hit. I don't know. How do you feel about that?
Exactly.
Would you rather, do you err on the side of just consistency?
It depends on the platform.
Okay.
It depends on the platform. For example, Reddit content can live forever and be shown forever. LinkedIn is getting better. it's giving us a few weeks, right? But but in a sense, that changes how we approach the actual written content. You can look at
Mhm.
SEO as this needs to be up here and it needs to be working for a very long time. Whereas with LinkedIn, we know it's rented and it's going to just disappear next week or the week after.
Interesting.
So it's like there's a time lapse where on social media, it has to be as if you've just had the thought because you know this will just go and disappear tomorrow. So you might as well capitalize on that recency in kind of conveying the message in terms of I've just done this and this is what I learned. And I think that that's what it's good for. So long as you can make it feel like you are there's little time lapse between you and the content, and it hasn't
Mm,
been edited and edited and edited, then that I think that's really the key. Of
that's
course,
really good.
consistency, yes. I think going back to marketing principles, it's good to be as consistent as possible, but I think we over optimize for consistency
Yeah,
sometimes.
don't sanitize it, right? Yeah, don't, yeah, but have a point of view. I think that's the other point I was taking from, what you were saying. I have noticed, for us, at Sure Oak, and again, like, I want to talk about, well, I guess, 2 questions. Where do you wanna go? But one is like, I play with it, but my personal brand, how it relates to my company. I wanted, like, why is that important for founders to know their own personal brand as relates to their company's brand, why that's important. The other question would be playing with these evergreen tools on LinkedIn. I played around with blogging on the LinkedIn platform, which is supposed to be more evergreen than the news feed or the social feed. Any which of those would you like to tackle first?
Okay, well, I think that the second one's interesting because there've been absolutely evidence that LinkedIn articles are being picked up through LLMs more often. Though I have found normal posts being picked up through LLMs. I do see LinkedIn as more of the identity credibility layer that
Mm.
works in and around the more insight layer, which would probably be cited from blogs or websites. So I think that yes, long form LinkedIn articles are getting cited more and more. So long as it answers a clearly searchable question and it includes extractable data points and being referenced elsewhere, it still follows that the same old classic SEO textbook. But I think that there are still limitations with crawlability. And again, I wouldn't call myself the expert SEO here, but
No, no,
I think
I'm really glad you said that because I do, we played around with some, we have our regular blog and we're always terrified, like we don't want to cannibalize our blog. So we try to do something that's one off or related, and we do it on LinkedIn. But I was actually really surprised at the pickup. And again, I think Nick, you were the only one that liked my blog, but like, but the internet was citing it because it was from a credible source. Didn't have the biggest engagement, but it
mhm.
was topical, answer the question directly, and it related to lot of the other work we were doing. I found it still important. But you probably have more experience than there. Like, does that actually drive credibility? We always had to drive revenue, but you got to drive authority first.
Yeah, 100%. I think that LinkedIn is more about what it LinkedIn is there, and I categorize it as the non-SEO SEO.
There
It's
you go.
like what are the things that are driving the conversation around your brand? What are you making your brand kind of easy to talk about? Are you using creative content to kind of spark conversations? And the more that you're referenced inside other people's content through LinkedIn, through other forms of content, the more you're likely to be cited. And I think that's probably that's how I look at it, to be honest. So and going back to what you asked about the founder, I see the
Yes.
founder as the steward for the company, and I think it is their responsibility to help start those conversations and drive those mentions off platform because people, and I hate to sound so cliche when I say it, people follow people, people relate to people and the emotional journeys of people want to know that you are a human and that you are the expert and that you are the real deal, and that you are thinking, and that you are the one that has the expertise, that you're not just outsourcing. I think that people want to connect with personality, and I think that having a personality now and creating the kind of novel kind of content that is net new to the market
Mhm.
is an extremely, like I said earlier, and a very important way to actually stand out, especially when there's such an oversupply of content right now, and also the fact that the quality of content has increased. We have to rely on personability or personality in order to get recognized, and that has to come from the founder first.
Mhm.
I think can't come from a company. And yeah, on a more technical level, company pages only get about 5% of the distribution, right? So that's a harrowing thought for many people. I'm not saying it's not a useful tool, but if you want to be in the place where people show up often, like LinkedIn, then your personal profile is the one that they're going to see, right? And I think as an SEO guy, you might think, well, I'm I want my stuff to get I want my stuff to get ranked. I think that marketing principles say, well, listen, we gotta be where the audience hang out. Classic age old principle. If loads of people on LinkedIn, then it's the personal profile that needs to
Yes.
be on the LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Um, so I hope that maybe answers both your questions.
Yeah, no, I think that's really good. I just, I think so many times, if a founder would just type into ChatGPT, "What do you know about John Smith?" You know, what comes back, and I had this great conversation, with Marty Oberstein, in the SEO world, but, like, he says what comes back is positioning. So John Smith, how does he rank as CEOs, or does he even know that he's a CEO of this SaaS company? And how does he compare in terms of his leadership and what's his expertise? Oh, he's got a podcast about this and he talks deeply about this particular problem. That's so important. And one thing that we've noticed as SEOs is like the about us, like the company page doesn't traditionally get a lot, but the people page is like who I'm going to be working with. That is massively important. And particularly if that person has a blog, has a LinkedIn profile, is highly engaged on X. Those are authority signals. The internet is talking about this
Mhm.
profile. And I think it's the line between company brand and personal brand, they're really blurring because I think people want to, I mean, the AI is paid on personal authority and wants to like, this is backed up by some really good people that have a really good track record with really good experience and authority. I think you're going to like what my results I'm giving you here.
Mhm. Yes, and going back to your point about having that unique advantage, I think that it sounds accessing content is so easy, and I think user patience in general is just dropping. I think that Google is trying to optimize for people's impatience with content,
Mm,
because you can click something in an LLM and you can get multiple things come up at the same time just to make it easy to access the content. I think that as relates to the people aspect, or the personality, the founder aspect, I know that this is why I think it's so important to find your differentiation as a company
mm.
at the company scale, because because again, people follow the people on LinkedIn, and everyone has to really ask themselves, what can and will I do that my competitors can't or won't do, for example. And the more you're able to write content about that very specific topic for your very specific audience, you don't have to worry about this friction where people are impatient. All just people will turn up to your content because they are the one audience for your content. So you bypass this 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 decrease in friction where everywhere it's just so easy to access something like that,
Yes.
because you get the right people ignoring everyone else and actually following you specifically for one thing. But I think the biggest thing really is that you can have competitors fine, but it's actually making the content that is so expert that is so expertise driven that you won't even have to compete with your hooks. You can compete with your name. When I see Dave Gerhardt, I just read it because
Yeah.
that person has so much authority, I'm immediately reading him on LinkedIn and ignoring everything else. I don't have to scroll and make a decision anymore. And I think that this is the way that we are consuming content now, where it's so easy, we expect it at the click of our fingers. We want to be that brand that where everyone else ignores everybody else, and we immediately go to them because they see our name.
Mm.
And I think that is, and I think that's yeah. So if maybe something you have something to say about that.
No, 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 I think that's really great. Well, how about just, like, more practically? One of the great things when I first met you, you gave me, like, really practical advice, like, fix 1, 2, and 3 and watch your profile just get better, and then change your approach towards social posting, do 1, 2, and 3. Do you mind giving some quick tips of people how they could, like, immediately get better in this area, especially on LinkedIn or even if X, if that's something that you do?
Yeah. So personally, I only see LinkedIn as the starting point
Mhm,
towards a much bigger game plan. I think that it's the place where you have to start as a personal brand and do well and build an audience. But many people see it as a means to an end. They think it starts with LinkedIn and stops with LinkedIn as relates to personal brand. I think that having a way to convert audiences to email to an owned audience is the biggest key key thing that most people miss, in my view. So a lot of people, obviously, an email is a place where you can nurture people over time and actually provide more in-depth expertise and give people more nuance behind your thinking as a personal brand. So I think that LinkedIn is the entry point as far as I'm concerned. Now, the kind of advice that I offer to people is to use LinkedIn as essentially social listening
mm,
so that you can pick up on the things that is really resonating with your audience. And for this, I might use tools like Shield Analytics to understand what the engagement rate is, like how are people engaging with the content, uh, and then turn that into one downloadable asset
mhm.
that has a high perceived value that doesn't feel just like a PDF or a webinar, something that feels comprehensive. When you change when you change PDF, webinar, downloadable into course or curriculum, people feel, wow, okay, that's something that I can commit to, and I can see a transformation. By the time I finish this course in 5 days, for example, I will have achieved this particular goal that I've been working towards. Rather than give them the one thing which is over, which they might lose in their
Right.
inbox, you're giving them a daily course or curriculum through email. And these are things that I've seen convert at a much higher rate, 10 times the normal conversion rate for any kind of newsletter or any kind of PDF, etc. And that obviously then builds, having an email course as such, builds the infrastructure that many founders need in order to scale their content and their audience into email. Where you can have better flexibility and better data on managing your audience and seeing how they're behaving with your content. So yeah, so the headline for that is essentially building a lead magnet from LinkedIn where the perceived value is extremely high. So it feels like a no-brainer
Mhm.
to download and then move your audience into a place where you can control them and own them.
Yeah, yeah, no, I think owned lists are great, and email's still powerful, particularly if that's a list you own, they want to hear from you, and again, it comes down to authority and credibility, whether they stay in that list, but the idea that you're teaching and giving, to your people that want to hear from you, I think that's really powerful, and again, the other thing I think is I would like your view on this, but I think was it Hormozi? I can't even remember his name, but, like, he was like, people get down on engagement, like, "Hey, only 50 people, only got 50 impressions." He goes, "How long would it take for you to make 50 cold calls? That is 50 people that you reached with whatever content that you were trying to reach." And so I think, like, these things cycle on top of themselves and to be patient with it. But, like, again, if you're starting out and your content's bad, no one's seeing it anyway, so what's the risk? So, like, why don't you just keep
Exactly.
keep having this iterative feedback loop and keep getting better at it? I think what you're putting out, tends to strike, more emotional context and strikes a nerve, or, well, that's a piece of content I would love to have in my hand. That's an email list I would love to be on. You gave me a lot of advice just on my profile too. Do you mind giving a couple things? I think people underutilize how they appear at first impressions.
Yeah, 100%. I think that people completely underestimate their banner.
Yeah,
That's the place where the eye goes first. And really, within that first few seconds, you have one impression or one moment to make an impression. And you want people to understand what you do and why you're important and why you're credible in literally 3 seconds. You don't want them to have to scroll down the page to keep learning more about you. They want to just get it. Yeah. So I think that my view is you should always be using your profile like a landing page, always be leveraging credibility markers. That could be logos from clients you've worked with or how many people you've helped, things like that. How trusted are you, etc. Along with the exact person key detail on the exact people that you help and why you help them. And really simple things like look directly at the camera with your picture and smile so people can actually see your face and know who you are, which, believe it or not, is a completely underestimated one. But yeah, just finding, looking at that, making them understand that you are who you say you are, and they feel this is me. This is the person who can help me exactly in that one moment. I
I
think
love
that's the
it.
first thing. It's always about people look at the banner, then they scroll down to your head, and then they read your headline. That's basically what they do. So within that moment, you have to prove that you have credibility, that you're the logical choice, and that you are appealing to some kind of emotion, like you understand their pain and you're making clear that you you do understand their particular pain point. Because in some sense that conveys trust. The fact that you can articulate their pain points better than them shows that you've been in the room with those kinds of people a lot, right? So beyond that, scrolling down the page, people aren't really utilizing a featured section.
Mm,
If you go to, we're getting very technical now, but if you go to add profile section at the top of your profile, you can choose there's a box that says recommended, click that, and then click add featured. And this gives an audience a place to go to find more deeper assets about you. It could be a downloadable, like I just mentioned. It could be social proof, case studies. It could be a book a call link, something with actual proper thumbnails that make it easy and obvious that this is that, this is that, this is that. You've got to really use. You've got to use people. The people build websites for a reason, and you've got to use your profile like it's a website. You've got to give people places to go so they don't bounce, right? Um, so I think those are really the key things. And also, really nowadays, a services page with
yes.
testimonials is really an important step. And again, having graphics for that, actual pictures of your clients. I have pictures of all my clients on there and their reviews. These are the underutilized aspects, I think. Um,
I'll put your profile on the show notes, but yours is great. You got like it's you, but you're like a haggard founder, like trying to figure out social media. You got your social proof of clients, your 5 stars, and it's exactly your value statement right there. So like, there's no question that you help founders on LinkedIn. That is very clear. I love it. Any other tips, or like I'm pretty much out of questions at this point. Anything else that we
sure.
were supposed to hit on that we didn't?
Yeah, I think that there's more of a general broader view of how we need to be writing content right now. And I think I alluded to the fact that valuable content is kind of dying, or the sense of
Mm.
educational content on social media is dying out, in the sense that just giving them the tips or the steps to achieve a goal is kind of, we're kind of bored of that in a way.
And I
It's
can get
kind
it
of,
on ChatGPT. I don't need it from your.
you can get it on
Yeah.
Chat
Yeah.
GPT. So I think I spoke about people need to feel that this is breaking news. There's a kind of recency to it. And I think, and that there is some kind of narrative element kind of weaved into the educational. So an example would be before we would say how to achieve this goal. Then it became how I achieve this goal, which is
Mm,
more personable. But in my view, now it's more, here's how I came to this
mm,
realization. Here's how I came to realize this exact process that I'm about to give you. So now it becomes more of a story-led educational piece of content. So, so an example could be, 8 years ago, landing page projects took 8 weeks and 20K. Yesterday, I did the same amount of work in under 2 hours with AI. And here's the exact 7-step process. Step 1, I fed Claude 182 ICP profiles. Step 2, I did this. Step 3, I did that. So it becomes like a narrative. So now it feels like, well, this is real content. This is what really happened. It's not just evergreen generic instructional guides. It's an actual story
mm,
about how I can improve my business. So therefore, in some sense, it's much more compelling
mm,
because we feel like the founder is the protagonist of that story. And in some sense, we see them trying to solve a problem that we're trying to solve. We see so they're the hero of the story in a way. Or no, they're more of the, let's say, the audience sees them in the story, right? Because
yes.
they go through the exact same problems, much like Luke Skywalker did, and they want to, and they see themselves solving the problem too. So it's we're using storytelling in for much more technical reasons. It's not just about the fluffy story of how you started your business. It's very much the story of how you're solving problems. And again, LinkedIn is just a microcosm for this. This works even better across the board with SEO content. I think that Kevin Indig does a really good job of this.
He does.
I
Mhm.
think that going back to information gain, everyone's looking for net new, novel information. And a typical example would be those kind of human guinea pig experiments that people used to do, like the Tim Ferriss people. They say, I microdosed on LSD for 30 days and here's the results. When when the founder places himself into that micro case study in a way, people really invest in those stories because they are they are creating they're revealing some kind of novel information or new proprietary data on something. So therefore, we're really interested, and I think Kevin Indig does that really well on LinkedIn, where he has these crazy experiments and he shares them with the public, and we feel like we're really getting value, and that's why in 5 years, well, now actually probably we're immediately clicking his name. We're not even bothering to read his hooks,
Oh,
right?
yeah, I mean,
So
he's like, "Hey, who are the top SEO guys that are doing research?" Like, Kevin Indig's, like, probably 1 or 2, right? Right there on that
exactly.
icon. But you
So
said
so
something
we
really cool there that was like, it's vulnerability in a different way. I think a lot of, like, advice from social media consultants to founders is be vulnerable, and they think that immediately means post pictures of my kids. No, I think the vulnerability is like, yeah, I faced Darth Vader. I got my butt kicked too. But I had to come back. I met Yoda. I had this experience. I had this insight. Because like I had a sales coach talk to me about this. It's like, there's a problem. It's way worse than you think. And at current course of speed, it's going to be even worse. You can have these impacts. That's the story. That's the vulnerable story I'm telling. And that is my insight. That's a little bit more powerful than like, "Oh, I dropped my kid off of college. It was the worst day of my life." They're not at the house. Like, yes, there's a human behind the brand that I was doing, but like, I'd much rather hear your heartbreak story of how like the company almost failed, but you pulled it out and because of this insight.
exactly. Yeah, 100%. And people, all you got to do is name the emotion, name an emotion that you felt, during a particular process, whether that's as managing client expectations or trying to solve a marketing problem. People might not know you as a person, but they know the emotion, so
Yeah.
they can relate to that emotion that you're naming in your content. And uh, and I do think that you can tell a vulnerable story about something that might even seem a bit off topic in a way, but so long as you can tie it back to the problems that your client are facing in their business, then there's still avenue for that in my view. And I think that whole meme about, and this is what it taught me about B2B sales, that kind of joke about, in a way, it's like, it's funny and it's a meme because there was some truth in it. We were tying everything back to how it affects our customers and our industry in some way. But I think to stand out now, it's really about showing your using copywriting theory and techniques in your hooks, but making it feel conversational, that this is you writing it, and yeah, giving away information, sharing your insights, but doing it in a way that's narrative driven,
Mm,
right? And where you're pairing your insights with the anecdotal, so that we know there's an actual human behind the content, especially in a world where the barrier to entry for content is so low, but the bar's never been this high as well. It's
right.
like we have to come up with creative ways to stand out, and it's like we have to be creative marketers now, and that's kind of exciting for me because I've always been a creative marketer, than a marketer, than a strategist. But in some sense, it is exciting, and it's and yeah, we have to use stories, but we have to use them across the whole content funnel now, really.
Yeah, that's so good. That's so good because now
Not
we have.
not just the fluffy, vulnerable, you know, tale from your origin story, which is still very, very important. We have to build in that storytelling techniques into most of our content,
Yeah, because we're
in order
educating
to stand out.
this new gatekeeper of content called LLMs, and they're reading stories too because they wanna give humans human stories, even though it's and so it's not gonna if it's derivative, it's written by another AI, it already knows it, and it's not gonna give any of that insight away. So again, I think these time old differentiation, being in tune with like what's working now, um, but being genuine. I mean, a lot of these things are pretty timeless, but like maybe the techniques have changed. I think the world has changed quite a bit. The consumer behavior has definitely changed. So
Exactly, and this is the thing, be seen, be trusted, EEAT, all these things. These lessons do apply on social media, to founder-led marketing, but again, how we do it is changing. How we optimize for how audience behavior now is constantly changing. There are many ways to convey your trust, or convey your expertise and your authority, but we have to tactfully do it. We have to understand that people are impatient.
yeah,
People just want value, people want human content. So we have to somehow build strategies that that weave that expertise. We have to come up with content that appeals to that behavior, but still accomplishes those foundations.
yeah, it's so easy to move on to the competitor now. So like, with these YouTube shorts, just okay, no, next. It's just like
Right.
there's so much optionality now, in terms of and I think everybody and their mother has a podcast now. So what makes yours so great? I mean, I think the ideas of being more narrow, being more pertinent, knowing your ICP, your ideal customer profile, and speaking directly to that hero story that you were talking about. I think that's still missed because yeah, that's SEO just used to be about like structure it right, optimize it, get the click. That's not
Hmm.
really the game anymore. The game is to have a conversation.
Absolutely, 100%. And I think uh, AI slop, AI content, and again, it is the absolute antithesis of um, authentic content, because all it does is synthesize all other data from elsewhere. It is the absolute antithesis of information gain, new data, because it's
Information
just
game.
taking everything and synthesizing it into one thing. So obviously, with SEO, with LinkedIn, you want to write the content that says something new, that isn't just redundancy after redundancy,
Mhm.
right? And the same applies to LinkedIn as it does with SEO.
I love it. So, Nick, how can people find you?
Yes, you can find me on all the main channels. My primary space is LinkedIn, and you can find me on Twitter as well, Nick Anderson Vines. And yes, that's where I'd go.
Yeah, you've helped many a founder. I appreciate you. You always contributing. You actually are great about just giving free advice too, just in terms of just being helpful and engaging with people. I really appreciate that about you. And hopefully we get to do this again, my friend.
Yeah, I'd love to.
Thanks, Nick.